There is a whole lot of game knowledge to grasp in Naraka. If you're a new player, then you probably don't want to focus on putting too many advanced combat techniques to use quite yet, which is why this list will be mostly quality of life tips and general stuff to make the game a little bit easier to learn. I'd love to have you guys further build out the list of tips in the comments, so if you have any bits of advice to share, then please do. With that being said, let's jump into it. The first tip is something that I have never stopped doing since the moment I started, and that's marking your body on death. If the person who killed you is already decently kitted out, then chances are they'll leave some of your good stuff behind, and having your body marked means there's no chance of forgetting where to look. Just know that unless you place the marker on your map, it will be temporary, so you don't have a ton of time to get back. In contrast to this tip, it's not always a good idea to rush back to where you died. It's kind of considered a salty run back, and can easily result in you getting sent back into queue way sooner than necessary. If you don't desperately want your old gear back, I highly recommend using that second life much more carefully and spawning somewhere safe where you can loot in peace. A big quality of life tip for looting is to make sure you have pickup limits set. This means that while you're running around spamming interact on random loot, you won't accidentally fill up your inventory with repair kits or equally useless stuff. You can always bypass these pickup limits by opening up your inventory and manually sorting. If you find yourself weaponless in the early game and come up against an armed player, not all is lost, because the unarmed focus attack is actually really effective for making some space, or even just winning the fight. It's unparryable, has knockback, and the damage isn't even half bad, so definitely consider fighting back instead of running in certain scenarios. Don't be afraid to swap your empty armor for a fuller one of lower rarity. If you're low health and don't have space to reset and heal, even swapping a gold armor for gray can make the difference. My favorite spot to drop is Imperial Village, and a big reason for that is the traps that you can activate. They are all over the place and give you a huge advantage. If the trap is in a bottleneck, it basically just gives you a free escape or opportunity to heal, or if you're not looking for a reset, you can just use it for some free damage. It even disables the opponent's grapples for a while, which is really strong, and it marks them on the map. If you get a bunch of these set up, you will own Imperial Village. Quickly navigating your mouse over Soul Bloom Essence to pick it up while in the middle of a fight can be a little difficult, but the good thing is that you don't have to. All you have to do is tap the interact button to automatically consume the Soul Bloom. To make this even faster, you can run with your inventory open while spamming interact to consume it the moment you get in range. A really simple tip, but you'd be surprised how many new players don't know that you can do this. However, if you're not in the middle of a fight, consider leaving that Soul Bloom unconsumed. After getting a kill, check your map to see if you're in the next safe zone or very close to it, and if you are, place a marker on top of that body. With some Soul Bloom left behind, you can take a totally stress-free Realm of Yang fight. Just retrace your steps if you lose, and avoid that impending Yang depletion. I hardly ever go into Yang without doing this first, and it has saved me a bunch of times. The basic charge into dash cancel is a great way to move fast, but depending on the weapon you have out, there are actually faster ways. With longsword, you can half charge a horizontal attack and hold dodge out of the recovery. With dual blades and nunchucks, it's the same thing except using vertical attack. With dagger, you can horizontal into hold dodge, similar to longsword. Just make sure you delay the follow-up horizontals enough to not accidentally activate soul break. With greatsword and pole sword, you can dash into a jump horizontal attack to be slightly faster. I thought that katana, spear, and staff were all going to be fastest with the basic dash cancel method, but half-charged verticals with katana were actually ever so slightly faster. With spear and staff though, it basically ends up being identical for covering long distances. I often prefer using the attack release method because it gives you a longer amount of time where you're immune to grapples, but deciding what to use will be situational, and that goes for every weapon. This next tip is a bit more vague, but when it comes to your mental, how you treat and react to each death can have a big effect on your gameplay. It's easy to blow up and make excuses the moment you die, but taking a second to think about what you could have done better to change the outcome is a way more beneficial approach.
GG. I messed up my combo. I should have just played a bit safer. If I got that grapple, I could have done like one more focus attack. These are the terrain. Messed up.
Even in a situation where it seems like you were griefed, forcing out a GG can actually help change your attitude. Take a lesson from Demo.
GG.
Knowing your parry punishes means that you'll get as much damage as possible out of your counters with every weapon, and that can easily make the difference between landing a kill and coming up just short. I won't go over them all right now, but if you're curious about a certain weapon, then I'll be happy to reply to you in the comments. Practice them in free training to get the muscle memory going, and you'll be max punishing without even thinking about it in no time. Something really easy to incorporate into your gameplay is walking back and forth while looting. If you just stand still while organizing your inventory, it makes it really easy for another player to line up a headshot or two on you before you even have time to react, and that little shuffle can prevent that. You'll notice I left out tips that are more directly related to combat, and that's because I'm saving those for a combat specific tips video, so stay tuned for that. I had a few more things I could have thrown into this video, but I really wanted it to be a pretty concise list with a reasonable amount of things to focus on implementing. That's about it for today though. Hopefully this helped, and I'll see you next time.